Imagine a government program that placed vulnerable foster children into the care of convicted paedophiles. Not by accident, but by design. Helmut Kentler, a German psychologist, influential, articulate and dangerous. In the 1960s and 70s, Kentler was a leading voice in youth welfare reform. He argued that sexual relationships between adults and minors could be, quote, beneficial. Kentler believed that paedophiles could make ideal foster parents for difficult children. Incredibly, Berlin's child welfare authorities agreed. The so-called experiment began in West Berlin during the 1970s. Young boys, many from troubled homes, were placed into the care of adult men with known histories of child sexual abuse. The government knew, the authorities knew, but no one stopped it. At least 3 men are known to have received children. These weren't just random cases, these were long-term placements funded by the state. Victims say they were abused repeatedly, with no one to protect them. Kentler bragged about the experiment's success in published reports. He even admitted to placing young boys with paedophiles, and no one questioned him. Despite his admissions, Kentler remained a respected academic until his death in 2008. So you might ask, who in the right, sane, basic, integral mind would ever allow something like that to happen? And I'll give you the answer right now. The very system that guards these poor children, the very system that guards vulnerable people in society, they're the ones that throw the lamb to the wolves. Now, isn't it funny? For something as shocking and evil as this, not many people know about it. Isn't that funny? Isn't it funny how there's no outrage about it? And the fact that it started in the 70s and carried on for decades is just sickening. When you run further background checks on this guy, like he was praised in society, but if you look at his background and his history, his dad was like a German SS soldier, and there is rumours of a lot of abuse that happened there. He was very strict with him, which probably led to his very tortured, warped mind. And I just want to state that this is in no way justifying it. I'm just letting you know that these are the type of people that the so-called experts put into positions to make decisions like this. And it wasn't until 2010, 2 years later, after his death, that real investigations began. Survivors have since come forward. One victim said he was abused from the age of 6 to 21. Another described the horror of being abandoned by the very people who were supposed to protect him. These weren't isolated cases. Researchers now believe there could have been dozens of children affected. In 2020, a Berlin Senate commissioned report finally confirmed the government's role. The foster system had, quote, knowingly accepted the risk of abuse, yet no one has been prosecuted till this day. Many survivors are still fighting for official recognition, compensation, and most of all, the truth. I mean, if you really want to go down that rabbit hole, there is literally publicly available testimonies where you can read about some of the things that these poor little kids had to endure. But I mean, I wouldn't recommend it. It's definitely not for the faint-hearted, and it's definitely not going to be an easy read. But like I say, you don't just have to take my word for it. You can have a look yourself very easily online. It'll probably be in German, but you know, it's easy to just translate it into English if need be. So once again, people who have to suffer and endure torture from a very young age do not get their comeuppance, do not get any reparations, and it's all just pushed under the carpet. How many videos on my channel do we always conclude things with this? You know, it really breaks my heart, but the one inevitable thing that keeps me going is that not in this life, but the next, these evil, demonic people will get what's coming to them. And I don't think the people who knew about it and didn't say anything will get let off with it either. Let's hope and pray that these people get something for what they had to endure. The state should pay them and compensate them heavily, although that is not going to change anything. It's better than nothing, because we already know that the people that done all these things are not going to go to prison. What happened in Germany wasn't an isolated case. Around the same time, in another Western democracy, eerily similar stories unfolded. In East Belfast, Northern Ireland, the Kincora boys. Home housed teenage boys mostly from troubled or poor families, but behind closed doors the institution became the centre of one of the most disturbing abuse scandals in UK history. From the 1960s through the early 1980s, boys were sexually abused by senior staff. Whistleblowers raised the alarm, but nothing was done. Then came something even darker, allegations that UK intelligence agencies, including MI5, knew what was happening and let it continue. Why? Some say it was to blackmail influential figures or to protect informants during the Troubles. Inquiries were launched, but yet again, most founded victims claim vital evidence was destroyed or withheld. To this day, no full public reckoning has occurred, and all of this has still gone unresolved. Meanwhile, in London, another horror unfolded between the 1970s and early 1990s. Dozens of children under Islington Council's care were sexually abused in residential homes, foster placements and shelters. The victims were poor, vulnerable and often already traumatised. The abusers included staff members, pimps and people linked to organised trafficking rings. What made this scandal worse? Warnings were ignored for over a decade. Social workers, whistleblowers, even journalists tried to expose what was happening, but Islington Council denied everything. One of the most senior figures linked to this era, Margaret Hodge, would later become a UK government minister. She initially dismissed the allegations and years later she apologised. An independent inquiry confirmed systematic failures, and yet many of the worst offenders were never charged. As in Kentler's case, survivors were failed twice, first by their carers and again by the institutions meant to protect them. Germany, Northern Ireland, London, different places, but the pattern is disturbingly similar. Children from poor, broken homes. Sexual abuse committed by those in positions of power. Authorities aware but inactive or worse, complicit. Cover-ups lasting decades. Whether justified by twisted ideologies, political game or simple indifference, the results were the same, the violation of children's trust, bodies and futures. What the Kentler experiment, Kincora boys and Islington shows us is chilling when institutions prioritise control, image or ideology over vulnerable lives. Atrocities don't just happen, they thrive. And unless history is confronted openly, fully and without fear, they may happen again. In the United Kingdom today, as in Germany and elsewhere, the state still holds one of the most sobering powers imaginable, the authority to remove children from their families. Social workers and local authorities can step in when a child is at risk, sometimes justifiably, sometimes controversially. The process is called care proceedings. The courts that decide a child's fate are closed to public scrutiny, hearings are private, decisions are complex, but what happens next? Placement, supervision, safety in the hands of people and systems that history shows don't always get it right. And when the system fails, it fails in silence. Do you know what, guys? That was so hard to narrate. Like, society has to do better because the system isn't gonna. It seems to me the children that get put into the care system, they're just treated like livestock, they're treated like a profitable cattle, when these are the people that have lacked love and care. So they're actually the ones that deserve it the most. But what does the state and the system do? It makes their life worse. It makes things harder. It puts them in situations what create trauma that can never be forgotten. No meditation, no counselling, no light work, whatever you want to call it. That is a permanent scar. That is a permanent scar that stays on someone's soul. So as I just said before, we need to do better. And I really hope this video has brought some things to the light for you guys. I'm sorry you had to watch that, but sometimes the truth needs to be spoken.